The first signal from the stars was not a message of peace. It was an invitation. For decades, humanity had been sending radio waves, television broadcasts, and digital transmissions into space. At first, no one believed those signals would ever reach another intelligent species. They were just background noise, a byproduct of progress. But one day, everything changed. A massive ship appeared near the orbit of Saturn. It was bigger than anything humanity had ever imagined, like a floating city wrapped in silver armor. The ship was not silent. It carried a signal strong enough to reach every government on Earth. The translation came through in a calm, deep voice. "Humans, you are summoned. The Galactic Council has taken notice of your world." The message shook every nation. For years, people had wondered if humanity was alone. Now there was proof. Proof in the form of beings far older and far stronger than Earth's civilizations. Governments scrambled to respond. The United Nations formed a joint task force gathering diplomats, scientists, and military officers. A decision was made. Humanity would answer the call. Soon, a fleet of Earth's best ships was assembled. They were not as advanced as the alien vessel, but they were the pride of the planet. New carriers, sleek frigates, and the first generation of interstellar drives. To humans, it was a historic achievement. To the aliens, it was something else entirely. When Earth's fleet finally docked at the Grand Station of the Galactic Council, the reaction was immediate. Hundreds of alien species had gathered to see the newcomers. Their eyes glowed, their scales shimmered, their wings fluttered in the great chamber. They had expected something exotic. Instead, they saw humans, tall, fragile, soft-skinned beings walking in neat formation. At first, there was polite silence. Then came the whispers, then the laughter. "They carry weapons of metal and fire," one alien murmured, its voice clicking like stones. "They wear cloth instead of armored shells," another hissed. "Primitive, weak, a young species." The Galactic Council welcomed Earth officially, but the tone was clear. Humans were treated like children arriving at a table of elders. When Earth's military representatives presented their fleet statistics, the reaction was worse. The Council's fleets were made of millions of ships powered by technologies humans could barely understand. Yet Earth proudly announced it had a few hundred warships equipped with railguns, missiles, and basic plasma weapons. The chamber erupted in laughter. One council leader, a tall insectoid being named Zorath, tapped its claws together and spoke openly. "Humans, you bring toys to a battlefield of gods. Do you think your tiny fleets are worthy of notice? You are barely more than dust in the void." Another alien, a reptilian commander with scales the color of bronze, added mockingly, "Perhaps they think their history of fighting each other makes them strong. But in the stars there are no tribes, no nations, only power and humans. You have none." The laughter stung, but the human delegation remained silent. Their faces were calm, but inside many felt the fire of humiliation. The generals clenched their fists and the diplomats lowered their heads, hiding their frustration. The council continued to speak as if humanity were a minor species, fit only for trade or labor. They said Earth's cultural art and spirit might be interesting, but its military? Worthless. Yet even as the aliens mocked, humans were observing. They listened carefully to every word. They studied the arrogance in the council's voices. They watched the way the aliens dismissed their fleets, and in their silence, a quiet determination was growing. One human general, Admiral Jonathan Hale, whispered to his colleague during a recess, "Let them laugh. They see our ships and think they understand us, but they know nothing about how we fight. They will learn, one day." The days passed quickly in the council chambers. Humanity was given a seat but not respect. Every time humans spoke of defense, strategy, or war, the older species rolled their eyes or turned away. One alien diplomat even said directly, "Humanity will not survive the next century unless it serves under greater powers. You must accept your role." The words were meant as advice, but to humanity they were a challenge. Back on Earth, the reaction was mixed. Some people were proud just to be included in the Galactic Council. Others were angry at the insults. Leaders knew they could not show weakness. They encouraged their scientists and engineers to keep developing new technologies. Military officers quietly began running war games, imagining scenarios where Earth might be forced to stand on its own. In public, humans remained polite. In private, they began preparing. The true test came during the first demonstration. Every new member of the Galactic Council was required to present their military strength in a controlled exercise. Alien fleets would watch and evaluate. For centuries, this tradition had been a way to measure newcomers. Humanity was no exception. On the day of the demonstration, Earth's fleet entered the vast training grounds near a dead star. Dozens of alien ships formed a ring to watch, their crews whispering about what they expected. The humans released their ships, frigates, destroyers, carriers. They began maneuvers showing formation discipline, firing their railguns with precision and deploying drones. To Earth it was impressive. To the aliens it was laughable. One alien commander snorted, "They move in straight lines like children playing games." Another added, "Look at their weapons, projectiles. They throw metal at the void." The crowd erupted in amusement. To them, humanity's weapons were outdated relics. Their massive plasma cannons and energy shields seemed far superior, but among the laughter, a few aliens noticed something different. Human ships moved with discipline. Their formations were sharp. Their timing was exact. Even with weaker weapons, they displayed coordination many larger fleets lacked. Still, the majority dismissed them. At the end of the demonstration, the Council gave its judgment. Humanity is welcome as a member of the Council. But militarily they are of no consequence. The words echoed across the galaxy. Every species knew it. Humanity had been accepted but mocked. On the journey back to Earth, silence filled the human flagship. Soldiers, engineers, and diplomats all felt the sting of humiliation, but Admiral Hale broke the silence with calm words. "They think we are weak because they only see our ships. They do not see our history. They do not see our will. One day when the galaxy faces real danger, they will remember what they said today, and they will learn what humanity truly is." The crew nodded. They did not know when that day would come, but they knew it would. Far away, in the depths of space, threats were already moving, and soon the galaxy would discover that mocking humanity had been a mistake. The Galactic Council had many enemies, but one name was whispered with dread more than the rest: the Warlord of Karzul. The Warlord was not a single leader, but a title passed down from one conqueror to another. His forces were made of countless species enslaved and trained for war. For centuries the Council had fought him on the borders of known space, always at great cost. And now intelligence reports spoke of a new warlord rising, fiercer than the last. His fleets were vast, his raids unpredictable, and his cruelty unmatched. At first the Council believed they could contain him as they always had. But within months 3 border worlds fell. Entire colonies vanished in flames. The aliens who had laughed at humanity now found themselves scrambling to protect their own homes. The Council assembled emergency fleets. Thousands of ships gathered under banners of unity. They were confident in their numbers, their weapons, and their shields. But when the fleets clashed with the warlord's armada, something unexpected happened. The Council fleets broke. The warlord's forces moved with terrifying speed. They did not fight in neat formations. They did not rely on heavy shields or towering cannons. They struck in swarms, surrounding their enemies, cutting supply lines, and attacking from angles the Council had never prepared for. Entire fleets vanished in hours. The Council was stunned. For the first time in generations, their pride and their power had failed them. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. Humanity had only recently joined the Council, and already they saw weakness in the older species. The same leaders who mocked humans were now desperate, trying to hold ground against the warlord's advance. But when the Council asked Earth for help, their words carried the same arrogance: provide supplies, provide labor, perhaps some fuel or raw materials, the Council speaker said. Your fleets are too weak to fight. We will protect you. In the halls of the United Nations, anger filled the air. Diplomats clenched their teeth as they listened to the message. Humanity was treated as if it had no voice, no strength, no right to stand beside others in defense. Admiral Jonathan Hale, who had been present at the first Council meeting, addressed the leaders of Earth in a calm but firm tone. They see us as weak. That is their mistake. But if we sit idle, they will always see us this way. We must be ready even if they do not ask us to fight. The world agreed. Factories were ordered to increase production. Engineers worked day and night to refine railguns, missiles, and electronic warfare systems. Human scientists pushed forward with stealth technology, something the Council had dismissed as unnecessary. In the shadows of space, fleets began to form, not for show but for war. The warlord of Karzul grew bolder. His armada swept deeper into Council territory, burning colonies and enslaving populations. His cruelty was not random. It was a strategy. He forced the Council to react, to chase shadows, to split their fleets in desperation. At one great battle near the Veil Nebula, the Council lost over 1,000 ships in a single day. Survivors limped back to the nearest stronghold, shaken and silent. The warlord had proven his strength. In the Council chamber, panic replaced arrogance. Leaders shouted at one another, each demanding more protection for their own people. Alliances strained. Trust began to crack. Through it all, humanity remained quiet. They were not invited to speak. They were told to listen and obey. But in private, some alien commanders began to whisper. They say the humans fight differently. Yes, they have discipline. They think before they act. Perhaps they could be useful. Others dismissed the idea. Humans against the warlord? They would be crushed. Better to use them as workers. On Earth, the military prepared in silence. Admiral Hale called his officers together in a war room deep beneath the oceans, where no council eyes could see. A great map of the stars lit the walls. The Council is losing because they do not understand war, Hale said. They believe strength comes from the biggest ship, the heaviest cannon. But war is not only about weapons. It is about thinking. It is about striking where the enemy does not expect. It is about discipline, timing, and endurance. The officers nodded. Many were veterans of Earth's own conflicts, where humanity had learned to fight with limited resources. They knew how to win even when outnumbered. We will not wait for the Council to give us permission, Hale continued. When the moment comes, we will be ready to move. And when we strike, the galaxy will remember it. The moment came sooner than anyone expected. A Council world named Threx 9 lay near the front lines. It was a fortress planet, defended by thick orbital platforms and heavy fleets. But when the warlord attacked, the defenses collapsed in a single night. The Council fleets tried to respond but were scattered. Soon, millions of civilians were trapped, their cries echoing across the stars. The Council debated endlessly in their chamber. Should they send more ships? Should they retreat? No one agreed. While they argued, people died. Admiral Hale watched from Earth. He could not wait any longer. Prepare the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet, he ordered. We leave within the hour. The officers obeyed without hesitation. Across Earth spaces, soldiers boarded transports, pilots ran to their fighters, and engineers powered up the great carriers. The fleet was not large. Barely 50 ships moved out of orbit. But each one carried crews trained for this moment. Each one carried weapons sharpened not for show but for survival. When word reached the Council, the reaction was predictable. The humans are sending ships? One alien commander laughed. 50 ships? Against the warlord's thousands? They are throwing themselves into the fire. Let them go. Perhaps they will distract the enemy long enough for us to regroup. The laughter returned, but beneath it a quiet unease stirred. Some wondered, what if the humans were not as foolish as they seemed? The 3rd Expeditionary Fleet jumped into the system of Threx 9. At once, the scale of the disaster became clear. The warlord's ships filled the void, dark and sharp like predators circling prey. Council defenses burned in the distance, their wreckage drifting silently. Admiral Hale stood on the bridge, his eyes calm. Signal the fleet. We are not here to retreat. We are here to fight. The order spread across every ship. Engines roared. Weapons charged. Human fleets moved into formation. Not random, not scattered, but precise. They formed lines and arcs, their movements sharp as blades. The warlord's ships turned to meet them. Alien eyes widened in disbelief. Are they mad? They cannot win. But the humans did not flinch. For the first time, the galaxy was about to see how humanity truly fought. The system of Threx 9 burned like a dying ember. The once bright defense stations were nothing more than drifting husks, and the planet itself glowed faintly under the shadow of the warlord's fleet. The human ships emerged from their jump in perfect formation. 50 vessels, a fraction compared to the enemy armada, faced down thousands. On Council channels, the reaction was instant. They came with only this? 50 against 1,000? They are mad. Watch. They will break in minutes. The warlord himself gave the order to attack, amused that such a small fleet dared challenge him. His ships surged forward like a tide of steel and fire, confident in their numbers. But humanity did not panic. On the bridge of the ISS Resolute, Admiral Hale stood calmly. His voice was steady as he gave orders. Formation Echo, deploy drones. Railguns, prepare for synchronized fire. The human ships moved like parts of a single machine. Squadrons broke into precise arcs, drones swarmed outward, and missile bays opened. When the first wave of the warlord's ships approached, the humans struck. The opening volley was not a scattered blast, but a wall of fire. Hundreds of railguns fired at the same moment, their projectiles crossing space in perfect lines. Instead of aiming at random targets, the humans focused fire on weak points in the enemy formation. In seconds, the first dozen enemy ships were crippled, their engines destroyed. The warlord's commanders were stunned. They had expected chaos, panic, or retreat. Instead, they saw a fleet that moved with discipline sharper than any they had faced. Adjust formations, one alien captain cried. They fight like machines. But before they could recover, the drones arrived. Tiny compared to warships. The drones darted through the enemy fleet in swarms, disrupting targeting systems, jamming communications, and forcing ships to break formation. They were not strong individually, but in numbers they created confusion. The warlord's fleet was vast, but it was not unified. Each commander acted for themselves, rushing to claim glory. The humans exploited that weakness with precision. On the Council's observation ships, silence replaced laughter. The same aliens who had mocked humans for their primitive weapons now watched in disbelief. Look at their movements, whispered one reptilian officer. They are coordinated, another admitted. This is not the way we fight. This is something else. Indeed, humanity's way of war was different. They had learned through centuries of struggle on Earth that survival did not depend on the biggest gun but on planning, discipline, and teamwork. While the warlord's fleet charged blindly, the humans pulled them into traps. Small destroyers lured larger vessels into missile crossfire. Frigates feigned retreat, then circled back with precision strikes. Carriers launched waves of fighters that struck supply ships hidden in the rear. For every human ship lost, 10 enemy vessels fell. Inside the warlord's flagship, fury grew. The warlord slammed a clawed fist against his throne. Pathetic creatures. Crush them! They are only 50 ships. But numbers no longer guaranteed victory. Humanity had turned the battlefield into a chessboard, and every move was calculated. Admiral Hale studied the holographic display on his bridge. Enemy icons shifted like restless fireflies. Phase 2, he ordered. Prepare the net. The order spread instantly. Human ships activated stealth modules, vanishing from sensors. Enemy captains shouted in confusion, unable to track targets. Then, like predators striking from the shadows, the humans reappeared, surrounding isolated ships. Railgun fire and missile salvos finished the work. The warlord's commanders panicked. Their once proud fleet began to stumble. For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council witnessed something they had never expected. A smaller fleet defeating a larger one through pure strategy. The alien observers whispered among themselves, "They are not weak. They hid this from us. They wanted us to think they were harmless. If 50 of their ships can do this, what would 500 do?" Fear and respect began to mix in their voices. On the battlefield, the tide continued to turn. Human soldiers on the ground joined the fight as dropships pierced the atmosphere of Threx 9. While the Council had abandoned the planet, humanity refused to let civilians fall. Exo-suited troops moved swiftly through the streets, defending shelters and pushing back the warlord's raiders. With drones in the sky and artillery from orbit, they created safe corridors for evacuation. Civilians, alien and human alike, saw banners marked with Earth's emblem and realized who had come to save them. "They fight for us?" one alien child whispered as a human soldier carried her to safety. "Yes," her guardian answered, voice trembling. "The humans fight when others run." Hours passed. The warlord's fleet, once confident of easy victory, was now broken into fragments. Smoke and wreckage filled the void. Admiral Hale watched the fading signals of retreating ships. "Do not chase them," he commanded. "Our mission is to protect the planet, not to boast." The fleet held position, battered but unyielding. Out of 50 ships, 38 remained operational. Losses were heavy, but the enemy had lost nearly 200 vessels. For the first time in generations, the warlord had been forced to retreat. In the council chamber days later, silence filled the hall as Admiral Hale stood before the leaders. He did not smile. He did not boast. He simply reported the truth. The planet Threx 9 is safe. Our fleet held the line. For a long time no one spoke. The same leaders who had once mocked humanity now looked at them with uneasy respect. Some avoided Hale's gaze. Others studied him carefully as if seeing him for the first time. Finally, Counselor Zorath, the insectoid who had once laughed the loudest, broke the silence. You defeated the warlord's fleet. With 50 ships. We defended the planet, Hale corrected calmly. That is what was required. The chamber filled with murmurs, respect, fear, curiosity. The galaxy had witnessed something it could not ignore. But Hale knew this was only the beginning. The warlord would return with greater force, and the Council's arrogance had left them vulnerable. Humanity had shown its hand, but the true depth of its strength remained hidden. In private, as he returned to his ship, Hale spoke quietly to his officers. They think this was our full power, but this was only the first demonstration. When the time comes, they will see what humanity has truly built. And in the stars, whispers spread. The species once mocked as weak had revealed a glimpse of its strength. The galaxy would never laugh at humanity the same way again. The Battle of Threx 9 became the most discussed event in the galaxy. In every council chamber, on every station, and across countless colonies, the same question echoed. How did the humans do it? 50 ships had stood against thousands and lived to tell the tale. It was not only survival, it was victory. To the species of the council, it felt impossible. For centuries, they had believed numbers and raw firepower were everything. Yet the humans had proven another truth. At first, some tried to dismiss the outcome. The warlord's fleet was careless, a council member argued. Luck, another said. The humans were lucky, but others whispered differently. No, it was not luck. It was skill. They planned every move. They fight with discipline none of us have. If this is their beginning, what more are they hiding? Fear began to spread alongside respect. On Earth, the victory at Threx 9 was celebrated, but Admiral Hale reminded his people of the truth. This was only one battle, he told the United Nations. The warlord will return, and when he does, he will bring greater strength. The Council is still blind, still divided. We cannot rely on them. We must be ready to stand alone if we must, the leaders of Earth agreed. Behind closed doors, they revealed what many outside Earth did not know. Humanity had been preparing for decades. While the Council mocked their railguns and missiles, humanity had quietly developed technologies never displayed in public exercises. Projects hidden in underground bases, in shipyards orbiting moons, and in black sites beyond Pluto had been growing in secret. The galaxy thought humans had only primitive toys. In truth, those toys were only the surface. The first secret was stealth. The Council believed stealth in space was useless. Massive ships gave off heat, gravity signatures, and engine trails. To them, invisibility was a myth. But humanity had approached the problem differently. By building ships with heat-absorbing armor, by using decoy drones, and by channeling exhaust through carefully designed vents, humans had created vessels that could hide in the darkness of space for hours, even days. Some of the newest cruisers could appear suddenly, launch a devastating strike, and vanish again before sensors registered their presence. The second secret was cyber warfare. While the Council relied on centralized computers and outdated codes, humanity had mastered digital infiltration. Human programs could slip into enemy systems, feeding false data, blinding sensors, or even turning ships against each other. In the Battle of Threx 9, this had been used sparingly. But in truth, Earth's best cyber teams could dismantle entire fleets without firing a shot. The third secret was weapons. Railguns and missiles were only the beginning. Hidden deep in shipyards, humanity had been building rail cannons the size of skyscrapers designed to pierce the strongest shields in the galaxy. They had drone swarms so vast that they could darken a planet's skies. And there were orbital artillery platforms, massive weapons placed on asteroids and moons, capable of striking targets across entire systems. These secrets were not revealed to the Council. Not yet. Humanity waited, watching, preparing. In the Council, debates raged. Some demanded humanity be given more responsibility. Others feared their rise. Counselor Zorath, the insectoid who had once mocked humanity, now spoke with unease. They fight like no one else. They adapt too quickly. If we give them power, we may regret it. But another leader argued, if we do not, we may lose everything. The warlord grows stronger each day. We need the humans. The Council was divided, and in their division they failed to act. Their fleets were scattered. their commanders jealous of each other's authority. They still believed numbers alone would save them. Admiral Hale watched this with growing concern. "They will not change until it is too late," he said quietly. "We must be ready for the moment they fail completely." Meanwhile, in the shadows of the galaxy, the warlord planned his revenge. The humiliation at Threx 9 had enraged him. He had expected an easy victory. Instead, his forces had been cut apart by a species he had never considered a threat. "Humans," he growled in his throne room. "They think themselves clever. I will burn their worlds. I will crush their fleets. I will make their name a warning to all." He began to gather his greatest armada. This time he would not send raiding parties or scattered fleets. This time he would unleash the full strength of his empire. Spies carried whispers of his plans back to the council. Fear gripped the chamber once again. Some urged immediate action. Others argued for retreat. In the end, as always, they debated while the threat grew closer. On Earth, the decision was already made. Admiral Hale called his officers into a hidden war room beneath the surface of the moon. A great display lit the chamber, showing star systems across the galaxy. His voice carried steady resolve. "The warlord is coming," he said, "and the council will fail. When they do, it will fall to us to stop him." He turned to his officers and revealed what only a few had known: humanity's true arsenal. The officers' eyes widened as they saw the plans. Ships larger than anything in the official fleet, bristling with weapons unknown to the council, armored suits for soldiers, powered by fusion cores capable of lifting tanks and leaping across battlefields. Drones that could act in perfect coordination, each one linked to an artificial intelligence designed for war. "This is what we have built," Hale said. "This is why we let them laugh at us. They thought us weak. They thought us harmless. But when the time comes, we will reveal what we truly are." The room was silent for a moment. Then one officer whispered, "They will never mock us again." Across Earth, secret factories came alive. Massive engines roared to life on hidden shipyards near Neptune. Orbital docks built new carriers, each larger than the last. Thousands of drones rolled off assembly lines, soldiers trained in underground facilities testing exosuits that turned them into living weapons. The people of Earth did not know the full extent of what was happening, but they trusted their leaders. They knew their species had been insulted, dismissed, and mocked. And they were ready to prove the galaxy wrong. The council did not notice, or perhaps they chose not to see. They still believed humanity's victory at Threx 9 had been a lucky accident. They continued to argue in their chambers while colonies burned on the borders. But whispers spread among ordinary citizens. Merchants who had been rescued by humans spoke of soldiers who fought with courage. Refugees told stories of human fleets appearing like ghosts, striking fast and disappearing. Children across the stars began drawing pictures of human warships, calling them the shadows that saved us. A legend was forming, and legends were powerful. In the quiet of his cabin, Admiral Hale looked out at the stars. He knew the warlord would come soon. He knew the council was unprepared, but he also knew something else, something the galaxy had yet to realize. Humanity was not only ready to fight, they were ready to lead. For centuries, the galaxy had laughed at Earth. Now humanity's silence was ending. The day of revelation was near. The warlord of Karzul had assembled the largest armada the galaxy had ever seen. Every ship under his command was reinforced, armed, and ready. His fleet stretched across entire star systems, filling the void with menace. He had sworn revenge for Threx 9, and now he would show the galaxy the power he thought unmatched. Across the Galactic Council, panic spread like wildfire. Worlds that had once mocked humans now begged for protection. The fleets were scattered. Leadership was indecisive. Only humanity moved with purpose. On Earth, Admiral Jonathan Hale stood before the 5th Expeditionary Fleet, the culmination of decades of secret preparation. Hundreds of ships now orbited Earth, ready to jump into battle. Not a single ship carried outdated weapons. Each vessel bristled with railguns, missile batteries, and drone swarms. Hidden stealth modules made them almost invisible. Orbital artillery platforms in nearby moons waited for the command to strike. "This is it," Hale said quietly to his officers. "The warlord believes he is coming to crush us. He does not know we have been ready for him for decades. Today, humanity reveals itself." The officers nodded, their faces calm but determined. They knew their fleet was small compared to the warlords, but they also knew something the aliens did not. Humans fought differently. They thought faster, adapted quicker, and endured longer than any other species in the galaxy. The human fleet jumped into the system where the warlord waited. Instantly, thousands of alien sensors should have detected them, but they did not. Stealth technology hid the fleet perfectly, making them appear as nothing more than drifting asteroids. From the flagship ISS Resolute, Hale watched the enemy armada. It was immense. Ships the size of cities moved in perfect formations. Thousands of warships bristled with energy cannons and shields. The warlord's confidence radiated through the holographic display. "They think us weak," Hale said. "Let them feel their mistake." At his command, the fleet split. Half moved to engage the enemy directly. Half circled behind, hidden from all sensors. Orbital artillery platforms activated. Massive cannons fired silently from moons, their energy beams tearing through enemy capital ships. The sudden destruction confused the warlord's commanders. The warlord's fleet surged forward, expecting an easy victory. Suddenly, the tin cans they had mocked unleashed drone swarms invisible until the last moment. Thousands of drones surrounded capital ships, jamming systems, disabling engines, and opening shields for precise human fire. The warlord's ships fired blindly, striking at targets that were no longer there. Missiles exploded harmlessly against empty space. Confusion spread across the armada. "Impossible!" the warlord roared. "They cannot be here. They cannot move like this." But humanity had trained for this. Every movement was synchronized. Every strike was planned. Every ship knew its role. The battle unfolded like a symphony, with humans conducting each note. On the ground of the nearest colony, human soldiers deployed in exosuits. They moved across cities and plains with speed and precision. These were no ordinary soldiers. Each exosuit amplified strength, speed, and endurance. Drones hovered above, relaying real-time battlefield data. Artillery from orbit supported every step, striking enemy reinforcements before they could reach the humans. Civilians, both human and alien, watched in awe as soldiers advanced with calm efficiency. Refugees whispered the truth. Humanity was not only fighting, they were winning. The warlord, growing desperate, ordered a massive charge. Thousands of ships converged on the human fleet, hoping to crush it with raw power. But humanity had anticipated this. Admiral Hale signaled the final phase. The human fleet vanished from sensors, slipping behind the warlord's armada. Missiles and railgun fire erupted from all directions simultaneously. Drone swarms cut off communications between enemy ships. Orbital artillery from moons added precision strikes. Ships that had once seemed invincible were torn apart. The warlord's armada fell into chaos. Thousands of his vessels were destroyed in a matter of hours. Confusion and fear spread like wildfire. For the first time, the warlord felt something he had never known: true panic. Across the galaxy, news spread instantly. Species who had laughed at humans now listened in silence. Every message, every report told the same story. A small human fleet had shattered the largest armada they had ever seen. The myth of human weakness was gone. Even the Council, which had dismissed humanity for decades, watched in shock. Counselor Zorath, the one who had once mocked humans openly, stared at the reports. His voice shook as he said, They were never weak. They were preparing, and they were always stronger than we imagined." The realization spread through the Council like wildfire. The species they had scorned was now the galaxy's decisive force. Meanwhile, the warlord fled to the outer rim of the system, his pride shattered. For centuries he had been feared. Now he was humiliated. For the first time, he considered negotiation, not from a position of strength but from fear. Admiral Hale did not pursue recklessly. His mission had never been vengeance. It had been protection. The humans had revealed their strength to save the galaxy, not to conquer it. On the bridge of the Resolute, Hale looked at his officers. "This is only the beginning," he said. "They now know who we are. Let them remember this. Humanity cannot be underestimated. We endure, we adapt, we fight." His officers nodded, pride and relief visible on every face. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Humans were clever, disciplined, and adaptable. They did not rely solely on raw power. They used strategy, preparation, and innovation to overcome overwhelming odds. They fought with courage and with intelligence. Where aliens had seen weakness, humans had hidden their strength. Where others had relied on fear and numbers, humans relied on resolve and planning. And in every system, from the council chambers to distant colonies, whispers began to spread. Never mock humanity again. For the first time, the laughter of the Galactic Council was replaced with respect and a hint of fear. Humanity had revealed its true military power, and it had done so without arrogance, only precision and purpose. In the quiet that followed the battle, Admiral Hale addressed the crew of the 5th Expeditionary Fleet. "You have done something extraordinary," he said. "Not for glory, not for revenge, but for life itself. Today we have shown the galaxy that humans are not weak. We are survivors. We are warriors, and we are not to be underestimated." The crew cheered not for themselves, but for the species they represented. Humanity had endured centuries of doubt, ridicule, and scorn. Now the universe had seen the truth. Even the children of distant worlds would learn their lesson. Humanity had arrived, not as pawns, not as toys, but as a force that would shape the future of the galaxy. And somewhere, in the dark reaches of space, the warlord of Karzul hid, nursing his wounds and his pride. The humans had defeated him not through raw numbers, not through ancient power, but through strategy, innovation, and relentless resolve. He would return one day, perhaps, but he would never forget the species that had risen from the blue planet called Earth. The galaxy had laughed at humanity. Now it was learning to listen, and humanity, as always, was ready.